Good morning to all. Welcome to the second session of FDP Phase 2, sponsored by AICTE, organized by the Department of Biotechnology, the Oxford College of Engineering. Our guest speaker for today's session is Dr. Srinivas Rao Varamandu. He is an associate professor in the Department of Chemistry, Dayanand Sagar University. He has received his master's degree in inorganic chemistry and then his PhD degree in chemistry from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. He is an awardee of international fellowships, which includes DAAD Fellowship from Germany, Royal Society Fellowship UK, and Royal Society of Chemistry Developing World Fellowship UK to carry out the PDF research work of at Humboldt University, Germany, University of Edinburgh, Scotland, University of Nottingham, England, respectively, and also has visited City University of Nottingham. He is also an awardee of National Fellowship with IASC, JNCASR, and INSA, visiting scientist fellowship to carry out research work at CDFD Hyderabad, JNCSR Bangalore, and JNU New Delhi. Effectively, he has about 22 years of teaching and research experience. His research interests are interdisciplinary areas, which includes bioanalytical chemistry, characterization of proteins and DNA adducts with neurotoxins like pesticides, PAHs, and drugs, analytical and environmental chemistry, environmental biotechnology, and phytochemistry. He has earlier undertaken the research projects funded by UGC around up to 4 lakhs and VGST Karnataka up to 20 lakhs. He has a research collaboration with institutions like JNTU, JNU, IMTech, NGRI, and University of Nottingham Medical School, Derby, etc. He has published around 21 peer-reviewed research papers in international and national journals and has authored one book and a chapter with contribution for two books. He is a reviewer for some of the international and national journals and also an educator for PhD theses. His professional affiliations include Fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry, Chartered Scientists, and Chartered Chemistry, awarded by Royal Society of Chemistry UK. He is also a member of American Chemical Society, Indian Society of Remote Sensing, Society of Crystallography, Society of Biological Inorganic Chemistry, Biochemistry Society UK, Indian Society of Biological Chemistry, etc. He is also a mentor and a resource person for DST summer and winter camps and other DST Inspire initiative programs. So, on behalf of the staff, students, and the management, the Oxford College of Engineering, I, Salma, take it a privilege to welcome you to this session as our guest speaker, sir. Welcome to the department, sir.
Thank you so much, madam.
And it's over to you, sir. Please start with the session, sir.
Yes. Just a moment, I'm trying to share that PPT. Yes. Yeah. Slides are visible now. Could
Sir, put it on the slideshow mode, sir. It is just on PPT mode.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity given to me, and I would like to thank the Oxford management and the organizers of the FTP program. Today, I would like to discuss on the pesticides and their metabolite analysis relating to the environment and biomarkers of human exposure and health issues. Uh, the topic of my presentation divided into two parts. Overview of the presentation or topic, and the pesticides and environment and health effects, motivation of the talk and the presentation, topic of the research. And the part one, I would like to discuss the principle and the instrumentation and the method development for the analysis of pesticides. Also, I would like to, second part of my presentation, I would like to present the results of my research work on the protein interaction of the protein interaction with the pesticides. And since it is relating to the entrepreneurship, I would like to give a few aspects relating to the startup plans relating to the present talk and conclusion. So, overview of my presentation is that humans are often exposed to a variety of chemicals present in the environment. The chemicals that includes the pesticides, pharmaceutical compounds, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and microplastics are affecting the or contributing to the environment due to the human activities. And all the chemicals that enter in contributing to the environment causing for the different health diseases includes the neurodevelopmental disorders and also the it causes the cancer. Among the uh, many neurotoxin chemicals, the pesticide has been attracted to the attention due to the pesticides are being used in agriculture widely. And what is the pesticide? Pesticides are being used in agriculture to increase the product agriculture production and by killing the insect or eliminating the insects. They, there are different types of pesticides, herbicides, organochlorine phosphorus, organochlorine pesticides, organophosphorus, carbamates, rodenticides. There are different types of pesticides. The name given to the different pesticides based on the application. And the pesticides are used for the agriculture purpose, domestic and health, public health purpose. The pesticide chemicals are being used. So the wide application of the pesticides is causing to the contamination of the environment, biosphere and atmosphere, lithosphere also contaminating. And this all, I would like to give a how the brief about the pathways of pesticide entering into the environment. Most of you all know about the how the what is the fate of the pesticides in the environment once it enter uh, through the different activities. So once it is entered into the environment, it deposit on the soil and they enter into the water resource. And once it is entered into the water, and there is a possibility of the seepage into the groundwater system, through the land runoff, and some of the compounds will be evaporate. Depends upon the environmental condition. Some of the volatile compounds that enter into the atmosphere, and some compounds will not be volatile, and it will be associated with the dust particle in the atmosphere. And once the pesticides are entered into the environment, it degrade into the or fragment it into the different compounds. Some of the fragmented compounds are toxic, and some of the compounds are not non-toxic. Pesticide is a toxic compound. Most of, all of you know the about the toxicity of the pesticide. Once it is entered into the environment, and due to the environmental condition, it will be degraded through the microbiological degradation. Most of, you are all well known to the biological degradation, and also some of the compounds are degraded through the sun photo degradation through the sunlight. And those metabolites, just I would like to mention here one point: the pesticide dissipation in the environment with the time, and Some compounds will be volatile loss, photodegradation, plant uptake metabolism, chemical degradation, and microbial degradation, and leaching or runoff into the near aquatic system and groundwater system also. Depends upon the type of the functional group in the pesticide, that time that required for those molecules to degrade into the different fragmentation, or what you call degraded products. So the degraded products are, some degraded products are very toxic. But here, that if somebody is interested to work on this particular area, and most of the studies suggested that pesticide toxicity will be more studies, but there is a limited studies on the toxicity of the degraded products and the metabolite pesticide compounds. So someone can be focused on that particular area, the toxicity of the metabolites and the degraded products. And the effect of this, all just introduction, most of you know that, don't feel boring. The effect of the pesticides on the environment is this effect on the nutrient cycling in the ecosystem, effect on soil erosion, and fertility of the soil also be affected due to the wide extensive application of the pesticide, and also it affects the water quality, and human health also affected, and birds, fish can be affected with the pesticide. And the impact of pesticides on the human health. Some of the studies suggested that most of the compounds are causing for the cancer and also the neurological disorder. So the particularly fluorinated compound pesticide, nervous damage, endosulfan, DNA mutation, and aldrin cancer. Aldrin, these some of the compounds already banned in, but still these compounds are exist in the environment, and because it takes longer time to degrade. So the exposure route of the pesticides through the inhalation and dermal, and through the food chain also, and the once the chemical enter into the biological system, there is the chemical has a more affinity to interact with the biological biomolecules, and that causing for the different diseases like neurological disorder, and also the like a cancer. The exposure to the organophosphorus compound can lead to the serious neurological disorder, cancer, or it leads to the death also. Following the bioactivation by the liver, cytochrome P450, the organophosphorus metabolites produce are potent inhibitors of the serine active site enzymes, including esterase, protease, and lipases. Yes, just I told you that the pesticides once enter into the biological system, due to the you are most of, I mean all of you know that, I'm sure that the biological metabolic process, the compounds will be degraded, like first particularly cytochrome P450, and it will be degraded into non-toxic. Sometimes that metabolite is more toxic than the parent compound. So the OPs may be form a edicts on the other cellular proteins like HSA. Is one of the considered human serum albumin is one of the protein which has a more affinity to bind with the organophosphorus compounds. Once it forms the adduct, means complex between the organophosphorus compounds and the pesticides, and that adduct is more toxic, and that leads to the cancer and also the neurological disorders. That some of the studies suggested that what is the mechanism at a molecular level, what is the mechanism of the interaction between the organophosphorus pesticides and the chemicals. And the cholinesterase, blood cholinesterase, and lysozyme have a long served as a biomarker, because it is a lysozyme is abundantly available, and all human serum also is considered as a biomarker for the monitoring of the pesticide exposures in the human, particularly farmers. And some of the studies reported and that relating to the epidemiological studies suggested that protein adapt formation as a molecular mechanism of neurotoxicity, and the interaction between the protein and the pesticides will be covalent interaction, and that is causing for the neuro uh, causing for the neurotoxicity. And some of the studies suggested that the pesticides exposure is leads to the Parkinson diseases, and also it affects the DNA damage. And many epidemiological and animal and cell culture studies model reported that pesticides have been demonstrated to be a carcinogenic and neurological disorders. However, the results of these studies are still controversial. Nevertheless, their mechanism of action is not clear. So when it is formed a adapt between the protein and the uh, pesticide, there is no much literature or the clear study how it interaction, what is the interaction mechanism, and which amino acid is interacted with that chemical. So that is not clear. Studies, and therefore the new strategies in toxicological research are needed for the efficient screening for the adverse effect of pesticides on a complex living system. So biomarker can be employed to identify causal association and to make a better quantitative and qualitative estimation of these associated relevant to the level of exposure. Just I would like to I'm going to give some results relating to this also. Just I mentioned that a protein adduct is causing for the neurological disorder. So that protein adduct quantification is studies on the protein adduct quantification is protein adduct formation in the blood sample or in the biological system. Quantification is less published data. So some of it can be focus on your research area, and you can design the your research plan also. So quantification of the, for example, farmers are exposed to more pesticides. So how much chemical are exposing, and they are evaluating the exposure level. But how this exposure is lead to the further health deterioration. And if you can able to quantify the that adduct level concentration in the blood, that you can predict that what type of problem they can experience, they can get in the long run, long time. So that is one area of the research one can focus on. This will enable us to deepen our understanding of the mechanism behind their uh, carcinogenic potential. Motivation of the work. Opium insecticides are involved in the many occupational poisoning cases, even by accidentally the human or people are consuming the food contaminated with the pesticides also, and sometimes intentional also some things happening. So as a consequence, human biological monitoring of pesticide exposure has become a essential with the objective to assess the exposure and health risk, and is an expanding area of the research. So and also analysis of pesticides in the environmental matrices is important. How much of the chemicals the human are exposed to, how much quantity of the chemicals are exposing through the food chain or inhalation or different occupational exposures. So I would like to present the results relating to the interaction of the protein with lysosome interaction with the monocrotopos, and also I would like to give the just outline of the method development for the extraction analysis of pesticide in the water system, and also the outline. I would like to give the detail, brief about the principle and instrumentation of the HPLC. Most of you know that, but it will just refresh on the concept, some of the concepts. Overview of the chromatography technique, how the HPLC is invented, and before that, what is the advancement in the chromatography. And just I would like to mention here, I'm sorry for the delay in starting it's my fault, and I have planned for this presentation in my lab. I have HPLC and the extraction system, and I would like to to give a demo also after this one. But again, there is internet issue. Again, I'm giving the presentation from my office itself. I'm sorry. Some other time, if I give the opportunity, I can I can give the demo, or you can anytime you can visit our lab also for your any research work or any project work. Yeah, the invention. Yeah, most of you know that the Martin and Senge is has contributed for the development of the chromatography technique. So Martin initially he started the chromatography experiment. He packed the silica material in the column, and the plant extract is eluted through the silica gel, and he found that different color bands over the silica gel. So he and the silica gel he named it as a stationary phase, and the eluted the solvent which can be used for the eluting that extract is known as the mobile phase. And this is the Tislat experiment, and this is how the chromatography technique has been introduced, and he is the father of the chromatography technique. And there are different types of chromatography techniques like thin layer chromatography, paper chromatography, and also the column chromatography, solid phase extraction chromatography, and affinity chromatography, gel filtration chromatography, ion exchange chromatography. And before establishing, I'm trying to focus on the to explain about the basic concept of HPLC. And before that invention of the development of the HPLC, gas chromatography is in develop. I mean, is in using by the different scientists, but they have a limitation in the gas chromatography, and it is not convenient technique for the analysis of the temperature sensitive molecules. And also any temperature sensitive molecule introduced into the gas chromatography system, that will be degraded before going to the detector, before going to the detector to detect that molecule. So that is the inconvenient in our difficulties in the or deficiency in the gas chromatography technique. And also it can't be used for the very polar high molecular weight compounds cannot be used in the gas chromatography. So that led to the development of the HPLC. Just one second, I would like to tell you gas chromatography. This is a oven and the injection port, and this is the carrier gas, and these are the recording detector and the record data capturing system. So in this column, this is a column, this is important, where the compounds will be separated, a mixture of the compounds separated into the individual compound, and this column is placed into the oven, which maintain a particular temperature. So that condition, the sum of the compound, once you inject it into the injection port, into the column through the injection port, there is a chances of the fragment, what you call that, degrade those compounds in the column. So that will happen for the temperature sensitive compounds. So HPLC is modified column chromatography. This was introduced by the Kirkland Hubbard scientist, and after that the advanced technique was introduced by the Kesba Horvath, introduced the HPLC. Yeah. Now, just I would like to go back to the previous slide to explain about how the HPLC is introduced. And when you are introduce the compound, the plant extract on the solid surface, that stationary phase, and the using the mobile phase or eluting solvent, and the compounds will be separated to the through the silica gel. But these elution will be depends upon the gravitation, gravity only. The solvent will be elute along with the compounds will be elute along with the solvent mobile phase. So in case of the HPLC, if you apply the pressure on this column, the compound elution rate will be faster. But in the column chromatography, there is a it takes a longer time to reach to the end to elute to the compound. It takes a longer time because it based on the gravity only the solvent will be reached to the elute end of the column, and that takes a longer time. So so to avoid that inconvenience and the elution takes place in a short time, the pressure applied on this column, so the compound elution is very faster rate. So that is the main concept of the HPLC development. So, and also the pressure that can be applied about the 6000 psi pressure, and the material which is packed into the column will be a stationary phase. That particle size will be 3.5 micrometer, though particle size will be very, I mean, very in small, I mean, lower size, but they're applying there is a flow hindrance because of the fully packed the column with the smaller size particle. So for that reason, one has to be apply the higher pressure pumps to elute the solvent. So for that, the in HPLC, the advanced HPLC, the I mean high pressure pumps and the detectors and I mean, advanced columns has been introduced for the HPLC system. And just I would like to introduce you about you know all these things. UPLC is one of the technique of the chromatography where we can use a higher pressure than the HPLC. The pressure is about the 1000 bar, and also the particle size that of the stationary phase that packed in the column is about the 1.7 micron size. So the pressure is high, and also particle size is very lower than the HPLC system column, and the advantage of this UPLC will be high resolution and also more sensitive than the HPLC. So based on the mobile phase and stationary phase, the name has been given, and the stationary phase is a gas and mobile phase is also gas, and that technique named as a gas chromatography. If it is a liquid, is a stationary phase, and the liquid also mobile phase, and that is a liquid chromatography. And the comparison between GC and HPLC, just in 2 minutes, I would like to uh, complete the concept of the principle of the HPLC. Then we will discuss over the method development for the pesticide. So the HPLC can be utilized for the no volatile requirement, and also sample must be soluble in the mobile phase and separate in both polar and non-polar compounds can be separated in HPLC. But in the case of the GC, just I would like to talk about the comparison between the GC. So you will understand that where we can use the gas chromatography method, where we can utilize, I mean, opt for the HPLC system. So suitable, if you know the advantage and disadvantage, you can easily select the method for your research work. So in GC, whatever the molecule that you are going to, whatever the molecule of your interest to determine using GC, that has to be volatile in the gas chromatography system. So that is one. And also samples should be either non-polar and the polar. But in HPLC system, it is not necessarily the compound has a property of volatility, but it should soluble. The compound should be soluble in the mobile phase. That is the property of HPLC. Uh, uh, and the HPLC analysis can be takes place in the room temperature, but in the case of GC, at different temperature and different volumes of the sample volume can be introduced into the column in a GC system. And the separation will be based on the theoretical plate. That I will tell you a little bit more about the theoretical plate influence on the resolution of the compound separation. So, and this one comparison of HPLC GC, another point is sample must be filtered, and in GC system also both cases when you introduce the sample liquid sample into the system, that should not contain any other impurities in the form of particles. So before introducing that, sample should be filtered, ensure that there should not contain any dust particles. Yeah. What is HPLC? HPLC, I told you, it's a development of the advancement of the column chromatography, but in HPLC they apply the additional device, that is the high pressure pump connected to the column, so that the compounds will be elute very faster rate. And though the molecular the stationary phase particle size is very low, and due to the high pressure pumps, the eluent, that is mobile phase, will be elute through the column. And as I told you earlier, HPLC system, where we can use the high pressure pumps like a 500 psi, and UPLC system, it will be about 1 lakh or 1000 bar pressure. That based on that we can use we can name it as UPLC or the HPLC. And the basic principle of the HPLC is to separate the mixture of the compounds, uh, 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 separate the mixture of the compounds into individual compounds, and that compound should be uh, soluble in a mobile phase. So this is the high pressure pump connected to the column and detector, and the sample is injected into the injection port. The compounds will be separated according to the mixture of the compounds separating into the individual compounds based on the distribution of those compounds in the mobile phase and the mobile phase and the stationary phase. I'm sure that all of you know that the material that packed into the column is the stationary phase, and the liquid that your solvent that we are using for to elute is the mobile phase. So when you inject the sample which contain the mixture of the compounds, so the compounds will be separated based on the distribution of the compounds in the mobile phase as well as the stationary phase. So that we will discuss the actual mechanism. Now, this is again to make you to understand, this is the diagram you can look at, and there is no compound introduced into this column. As I told you that the material that packed in the column is a stationary phase and the solvent is a flow through this is a mobile phase. So when you introduce the compound into this column, the compounds will be separated. So each molecule is indicating as a one color, and some compounds may not be observed as not indicating with the color. And the separation, what basis of the what basis the compounds will be separated based on the distribution of the compounds in the mobile phase and the stationary phase. Which compound will be elute first, which compound will be elute at the end, is based on the distribution of the compound in the mobile phase and the stationary phase. If the compound which elute first, that means it has a weak interaction between the analyte and the stationary phase. So that's why it elute faster rate. So that means it has a more affinity to interact or distribute in the mobile phase more, then that molecule will be elute first. So the molecule which has more affinity to bind with the stationary phase, which elute with the end, which will elute with the end. So that has more affinity to interact with the stationary phase. So just you see this diagram made you to understand more. So two molecules are there. One molecule is one is mobile phase and the stationary phase, and the blue one will be a mobile phase, and the below yellow is a stationary phase. Then the molecule is introduced into the column. One is interacting with the stationary phase. That means more distributed into the stationary phase. This molecule is elute at the end. Which molecule will be first elute is that the weak interaction with the stationary phase, that molecule will be elute the first. So that means that compound, that analyte will be distributed more into the mobile phase. That molecule will be elute first. So the molecule will be more distributed in the stationary phase, and that will be strong interaction with the stationary phase. That elute is the last. So based on that, again this slide is also will be same to make you to understand. I took this diagram. And one more point I'm telling you, most of some of the data I took it from the internet source. At the end I have given the acknowledgement, not at the individual slide. Yeah. So this is the chromatogram, and each chromatogram corresponding to the individual compound. So when you injected the three molecules in the mixture of the compound, it separated into the three compounds. These three peaks is corresponding to or relating to the three compounds. And the first compound A, what is the retention time? This is the retention time and the peak height and the this area. This is the peak area. So the first compound A eluted first. That means the compound is more distributed in the mobile phase and a weak interaction with the stationary phase, and so on. And the last compound C is eluted the last among the three compounds, because this compound C is distributed more in the stationary phase, more interaction with the stationary phase. So that is the basic principle of the yeah. And types of the HPLC based on the different mechanism and based on the modes of the chromatography. Now, this is very important concept when you want to select the method for your research. I think you might be using already, but maybe it's I mean, just a repetition for you, for those who have already used the device. A normal phase mode, the stationary phase is water supported, and the reverse phase mode will be a stationary phase, a non-polar. So normal phase chromatography technique HPLC, the stationary phase will be a polar stationary phase, and non-polar compounds will be separated. And the reverse phase mode, the stationary phase is a non-polar compound such as liquid paraffin and supported, and it can separate the mobile phase will be a polar. Right? Once again I repeat, normal phase mode HPLC chromatography technique, stationary phase will be a polar and mobile phase should be a non-polar. And in the case of reverse phase mode, stationary phase will be a non-polar and the mobile phase will be a polar solvent. You should use the polar solvent in a reverse phase mode HPLC chromatography. So based on the elution technique, HPLC technique, chromatography technique can be classified as a isocratic separation and gradient separation. What is it differentiation between isocratic separation? Is that the mobile phase volume enter into the column throughout the analysis is the same volume with the time. That mechanism is known as the isocratic separation. In the case of gradient separation HPLC, somebody asked that what method you are using, isocratic separation method or a gradient separation HPLC method you are using. So this is the difference between these two are that, so throughout the analysis time, the volume of the mobile phase will be the same. So 1 ml per minute means throughout complete the 1 ml. So I'm sorry, 1 ml per the minute is constant, but the composition of the mobile phase will be varied. In a gradient system, the mobile phase proportionate. If you use the gradient, two solvents can be used, and the two solvents may be vary with the time. Initially, you may be introduced into the column that all automation and 90 is to 10. A and B solvent mobile phase, A will be 90, B will be 10%. Like that, you increase further. So if you increasing the polarity, what is the need of increasing the polarity? So you can find the different, you can find the good resolution and more sensitive and good separation also. That is the advantage of isocratic and gradient separation technique advantage. Based on the scale and analytical HPLC, preparatory HPLC, analytical HPLC, lower quantity of compounds can be separated. In preparatory HPLC can be used if you want to isolate the huge quantity of the compounds which has a medicinal value that can be extracted from the plant source or in biological source. That time you can use the preparatory columns. The preparatory column particle size is different, and the dia of the column, length of the columns also will be different. That is the difference between the analytical HPLC and the preparatory HPLC. Based on the type of analysis, qualitative analysis and the quantitative analysis. So that difference we will discuss in the later stage. I will go faster. And based on the types of HPLC based on the different separation mechanism. This all, most of you might have known that size exclusion chromatography, based on the molecular weight, the compounds will be separated. Affinity column chromatography, based on the affinity to with the stationary phase and the analyte of your interest. Nickel columns can be used as a for the separation of the metal proteins and all. Ion exchange based on the ion interaction, and hydrophobic interaction, Kyler chromatography. And this is for those who are working on medicinal field for pharmaceutical compounds. So some of the drugs are chiral compounds. So that time you need to select this type of, why we are discussing the different types of me. You should select the different type of method, or what type of method is suit for your experiment. So ion exchange chromatography method, uh, you have to, based on the pH, the charge distribution will be takes place, or ionized the molecule. So you want your negative molecule is your is your analyte of your interest to analyze separate. So you need to the cation exchange chromatography. If you want to isolate the positive ion based on the pH of the solution, you can take the anion. You can select the anion chromatography method based on the application, or in the your requirement. You can select the compound. So this is just again I told you separation and difference between HPLC and UPLC. Just I would like to tell you a good resolution that we can experience UPLC. Most of the our biological samples can be isolated using or separating using UPLC. And the important components present in the HPLC: solvent delivery system, injector, sample column detector, and also waste collector and recording the devices. Softwares will be taking place to integrate the peak and retention time. So these are the important components. Just what each component let us discuss. Just for 1 minute. Solvent reservoir, mobile phase, again isocratic elution, means earlier I told you single solvent separate technique. In gradient, two or more solvent vary during the separation. So when you are using the two different solvents, so the proportionate mixing with the time of the analysis, you can change the proportionate. So to get a more good resolution, initially 90 10 A and B solvent, 90 10 90 I mean 80 20, like to carry the sample into column. And one more important aspect, just these points you please remember, those who are new to the system. And there is solvent reservoir, and the mobile phase should not contain any gases. So you should eliminate, you should degas before using the mobile phase, like spurging with the helium gas. So any gases present in that, oxygen and other gases, that can be eliminated by spurging the helium. That is the precaution that you should take care of that. And also one more point I would like to tell you: the mobile system should not contain any dust particle. Before you start analysis, you should get ready the mobile phase and ensure that there should not contain any dust particles. And also you should degas that mobile phase. That is important. And at a mobile phase, again normal phase chromatograph, I told you non-polar solvent can be used, and polar stationary phase. Earlier I told you normal phase chromatography is non-polar solvents can be used, like hexane, dichloroethane, and isopropanol. The polarity also increasing. So when you use the different solvent, different ratio, you can experience with a good resolution. Good resolution. When you use the different polarity solvent in your analysis, you can experience, you can get a good results and in a separation or good resolution. You can observe. Sorry. Reverse phase chromatography, RP, HPLC, polar solvent it can be used. That is a water, methanol, acetonitrile, and the stationary phase will be a polar. So again, the strength will be increasing according to the combination of these solvents. And again, based on the polarity, resolution will be influenced. Yeah, normal, again, same comparison between stationary phase high polarity in case of normal, mobile phase low polarity, reverse phase is low polarity, hydrophobic, and high polarity in case of mobile phase relating to the reverse phase. So why the reverse phase HPLC is more commonly used than normal phase is that, yeah, this also is one of very less cases the normal phase chromatography can be used. Um, Reverse phase easy to use than easier to use, and also the reverse phase has a hydrophobic stationary phase which can be applied to wide range of the molecules. It works well in retention time, and also it can work at a different concentration and with the different solvents. So this is the difference between normal phase and effective for the separation of structural isomer. Yeah, just I would like to just one clarification. Normal phase, what type of molecule can be used? It, but it's the same molecule. But this you can use. Yeah, this can be applied more in normal phase technique in a pharmaceutical compounds. But the once the drug is designed, that should with the time that compound that structure should not be changed. So the structure isomerization should not be polymorphism, that should not take place. So when you want to check that the compound isomers are there or not, so you can select the normal phase chromatography. So reverse phase you can wide application. That is only the point that you can memorize. So pump systems, there are single pump, binary, tertiary. So single system, binary, two systems are tertiary, and system pumps can be used in based on the number of pumps. You can use the binary HPLC or tertiary HPLC or single, uh, single HPLC system. So just I would like to give outlines of that. And this pump contains the piston, and that will be moving forward and backward, and the solvent will be taken pump into the column. So that is one of the important point. So sample injection, this one point, most of you know that when the sample is introduced in the injection system, in one position, in injection position, that compound, the injection sample is entering to the loop, and when the load position, they switch over the loop in this way, and that went to the column. So when the low sample injection position, the compound is entered into the loop. It may be 2 microliter or 1 microliter loop, and once in the load position, then it enter into the column. The compound is entered into the column through the sample loop. So this is the different position, and we can call it as a sample valve. And the sample introduction will be in different manual and also auto injection. So the volume of the sample 1 microliter to 20 micro. Even if you use the nano liquid chromatography, nano LC liquid chromatography technique, nano LCMS also. The nano LC you can use the nano liter of the sample, because we don't have the much quantity of the protein. That time nano LC can be utilized for this. Columns, there are different of analytical column, preparative columns. As I told you, the compounds you want to separate the more compound which has a medicinal value from the plant material, you should select the preparative column. So in that, the particle size will be this much, and the dia also will be more than the normal analytical column. So capillary columns, more resolution, and nano columns also will be there. There nano LCs, where this is diameter is 0.1 m, the column diagram. So these are the different columns, C18, and yeah, different columns. And one more point I would like to tell you, you have to select the suitable column for your analyzer. There are suitable columns or specific columns are for the analysis of specific compounds. So based on the type of compound that you are analyzing, you have to select the suitable column. So that will give you the good resolution, good separation. So example I have mentioned here, vitamins, what type of columns that are. So detectors, there are different type of detectors are there. Detectors should to respond to the that compounds, and once it is passed through the compound is passed through the detector, and it converted into the electrical signal, and the detector should have high sensitivity and a linear response, and there should not be any noise. That is important. And there are different types of detector. Just another 5 minutes, I will conclude the HPLC relating thing. Then we'll another 15 minutes that biomarker topic we can let us discuss. Selective detector. Uh, Selective detectors are the absorbance detector. Uh, that selective detector based on the physical and chemical property of the solute. Those detectors are the fluorescence detector, electrochemical detector, mass spectrometric detectors. And universal detectors are respond to the physical property of the solute. Those are the refractive index detector and evaporating light scattering detector. So these are the types of detector: fixed wavelength detector, variable wavelength detector, photodiode, and the refractive index detector, and fluorescence detector, and electrochemical detector. Based on the conductance of the ions in the solution, that even conductive detector, that detector will be respond to that. Evaporating light scattering detector, when the sample is evaporated and that nano micro size particles is scattered with the light. So that will be detected. Mass detector. This is important for the most of the compound analysis, even biological sample analysis also. And IR detector and chiral detector. I told you chiral detectors are very important nowadays for pharma industry. So this is the principle. Spectrometer, its absorption principle in a UV detector. Fluorimeter also measurement of the fluorescence, and also detection limit also. And these are one more point we should remember that. And sensitivity and different, and what concentration for the biomedical application, your detection limit will be very low. You should not select the high detection limit. So depends upon your requirement and your application of your data application. You should you should use the you should select the detector. So your low concentration biological sample, lower concentration. So accordingly, you should select that suitable detector. So that is the detection limit importance. Aware of the detection limit of the different detectors. So just these are the different detectors. Just like to refractive index detector. This is the fluorescent detector, electrochemical detector, and electrochemical detector based on the oxidation reduction reaction of the analyte, suitable analyte. Electrochemical conductive detector based on the ions, and it's like conductive meter with one bridge also present. And this is a operative light scattering detector, and light the sample is introduced into the system. It will be operate, and that particle will be nebulizer through nebulizer. These are the particles will be analyzed, and that will be scattered. That light will be scattered by the but mass spectrometer based on the mass to charge. This is very important technique for most of the research labs. This technique, advanced labs, this LCMS will be exist in those labs. And the mass based principle is that when the compound is introduced into the sample in the mass device, the compounds will be ionized. That mass to charge ratio, based on that ratio of the mass to charge, the compounds will be separated. Infrared photo detector is also is one of the important for the medical application, drug development purpose. And chiral detectors. The factors which influence on the HPLC performance is that internal diameter column, and the pump pressure, sample size, polarity of the sample, temperature. Now, what it means, the factors which influence the HPLC. You can interrupt me in between if you have any doubt. Uh, hope some of you have utilized the device. And so, what are the factors that influence on the HPLC system, HPLC performance, and to get a good resolution, accuracy, precision? So for the some of the parameters that influence on the separation and HPLC performance is that internal diameter of the column, and smaller dia, higher resolution, pump pressure, the higher pressure, the higher separation like UPLC, small sample size. Also, if you use analytical HPLC technique, the particle sample quantity will be very less. If you preparative columns, you can introduce a higher concentration sample also. Polarity of the sample and solvent and column also is a matter. So based on the polarity of the mobile phase, the resolution also will be there. And temperature also will be influenced. The column temperature is also influenced on the good resolution. So working of that, just another 5 minutes. Hope I'm not boring you all. If you know this, please ignore it. All the concept. Isocratic elution, I told you already. So as I mentioned that I'm talking about how the SPLC is working and to determine the use for the SPLC for quantitative purpose and qualitative purpose. As I told you that the volume isocratic elution, this red is that with the time, all the time the elution will be the same volume. In gradient, the with the time the solvent introduced in the column also will be increasing with the time. So that is a gradient elution. So same thing. So how it will be influence on the separation? If the in a gradient system, good resolution as the polarity you can increase. For example, where you can ask the question how gradient elution is better than isocratic. For example, in a mixture of the compounds, all the say example 10 compounds are present. Yeah, say example 3 compounds are there in the graph. Let me utilize this graph, the chromatograph. So that 3 compound polarity is different, and one compound polarity will be more, and another compound polarity will be low. So if you maintain the mobile phase polarity will be high at throughout the analysis, means resolution will not get. So there is a chances of merging these peaks. So for the A compound, polarity, low polarity solvent should be required to elute, and the B compound polarity will be more. So you should increase the polarity of the solvent by mixing the two solvents. So polarity is increasing. So that way you have to be select the mixture of the gradient. So that means the increasing the polarity based on the polarity of the compound present in. So that means you should have a little knowledge about the compounds that you are going to analyze it. That is you should be aware of it, that what type of compounds would be present in that mixture, that is of your interest to analyze. So analytical and preparative, again qualitative and quantitative. Just I would like to qualitative analysis is that based on the RT retention time, you can select, you can identify the compounds. So you need to have the standard compulsory, and you come for the standard compound and you inject it. What is the RT time? Ensure that there should not be any impurity and single compound should be there. And the second, when you introduce the sample also, at the same RT you can find the peak. So that is for the qualitative. Quantitative purpose, you can consider the area of the peak, and here also in both cases, qualitative and quantitative analysis, you require the standard itself, and you have to consider the area of the peak and the height. Area of the peak is the important for the quantitative analysis of the compound. But in the case of qualitative, you can consider only RT for the quantitative analysis. And this is a qualitative analysis. See that this is the retention time, and when you inject the sample, the standard, so you should see that reference standard, reference compound, reference sample, and the test sample should be eluted the same RT time. So the quantitative analysis also the same. You should consider the area of the peak, and retention time also should be considered, and area of the peak should be considered to quantify the compound. So calibrate how you calculated quantify the compound. So here that important, this I would like to stress upon this one. may be useful. The calibration curve is very important. What is the calibration curve? Taking the different concentration of the standard standard compound and dilute it with the different concentration and inject into the HPLC, you can get the different area for the different concentration. So when you plot the graph between the concentration and the area of the that compound of that respective concentration, then that should be a straight line and that should be passed through the origin. That will be the calibration curve. So when you introduce, how do you quantify the compound in unknown sample? Is that when you inject the sample into the column and you will get the area. So you using the calibration curve, you can quantify the unknown compound in the unknown sample. So you will be knowing the area and you select that area. Just I would like, yeah, I have the graph here. So this is the absolute calibration curve. Now this is the calibration curve. You can plot the concentration versus the peak area, and that should be straight line and should be passed to the origin. Now how you are going to utilize for the quantification purpose? Now you inject the same sample in the machine and you can get the area, and that area should indicate on the y-axis and extended that line towards the straight line and again extended towards the x-axis. X-axis is the concentration and y-axis is the peak area. So at x-axis, where this line is intersect, that will be the concentration of the compound in unknown sample. So that is how we are using the calibration curve for the quantification of the compound. So this is the one of the measure for the absolute concentration, absolute calibration curve. And another calibration curve, internal standard method. And internal standard method is that, so sometimes to get a more accurate, you have to use this internal standard. So the constant, this is the C1, C2, C4 is the target sample, and internal standard, same concentration of the standard can be introduced into the, how you select the internal standard. Even my nanogram concentration, nanogram level of the compound also should respond to the detector. So that should be selected as a internal standard. So it will be more accurate. And this is the A two peaks you can find here, and the A the bigger peak is the internal standard and A1 will be the test sample or target substance. So when you plot the graph between the ratio of the concentration of the target substance and also concentration of the internal standard and also area of the target substance and the area of the internal standard. When you plot the graph, again you should get the straight line and this straight line, and it should be linear. And when you want to test the same unknown sample also, same ratio of this area and of the light target substance and also internal standard. So then you can get the exact concentration of the light in the unknown sample. Where we can use this method, where we can, sometimes there will be a chances of the flux, what you call that, based on the nature of the compound, the retention time will be it will be fluctuating, changing. So that time this internal standard method is very important. So whatever the sample you injected, but internal standard RC time is should be same and that relative to the target substance. So this is one of the method, and standard addition also. In this, it is also one of the method. Sometimes the sample uh, is varying, concentration is varying with different condition. That time you can add the internal standard and concentration of internal standard is increasing, but same sample you can take the 4 or 5 set of the same sample in a different vials and add the concentration of the internal standard. Concentration of internal standard should be increasing from one sample to the sixth, last sample. So that time you can get the linear regression. This is the intercept where that you can get the intercept, that is the concentration of the sample. So this, sometimes the sample interference will be there, that condition we can use the internal standard method. So we have seen the different types of method. absolute standard method, and also the internal standard method and standard addition method. Just have like a calibration method to use when the instruments respond to this other than the analyte of interest that are considered in the sample. That time we can use the sorry that can that time we can use the standard addition method. And the calibration method to use when the analyte losses many occur during the sample preparation. Yeah, that time we can use the internal standard method. So these are the chromatography parameters. Most of you know that what is RT time, the time required for the compound to elute to the end of the column. That is the retention time. These are the chromatography. Retention factor also influence on the resolution. K factor will be more good resolution between the two peaks. And these are the factors. And the evaluation of column efficiency, if you want, yeah, this is important point. And when you buy the column, suitable column, you should check that suitability of column for your study. So if you want to see that good resolution, you need to check, you need to find out the high theoretical plate number column. So that means surface area of that particle size, stationary phase should be more. So n value that can be denoted as n. If the n value will be more, then resolution and sensitivity and separation on the column is also will be more. So see that the n value will be theoretical plate will be more very less. Theoretical plate means surface area of the particle size packed in the column. So the resolution, the pack is a broad peak, and if you n value will be more, so peak intensity also of the peak also will be increasing. That is the importance of theoretical plate calibration of the HPLC. This is important when you want to, you have your own system, how to calibrate the flow rate and the detector sensitivity, linearity, how to check system precision, column mount temperature, detector wavelength accuracy, all you should check on your own. Is very easy. And flow rate, when you 1 ml per minute, if you maintain automation, all you can fix that volume of the mobile phase volume, volume at 1 ml per minute. So you can collect the waste that same mobile phase. If for 1 minute keep the same 1 ml, if you find, then that how the you can calibrate your pump. So there will be, instead of 1 ml per minute, you will get a 900 microliter or that. So there will be a problem with the pump. So you should calibrate the pump. So detector also, how the linearity, you can take the caffeine compound, it is more sensitive to the detector. So how much time, how many time you can inject the caffeine, that RT should be the same, area should be the same, because same concentration you injected. So you can take the data of the 5 times injection sample and plot the graph with area. So the percentage of RST, relative standard deviation. So based on that, you can check the efficiency of the detector and also injector. Sometimes what happens if you don't do this test calibration of HPLC, when you inject the sample, maybe you check maybe 5 microliter of the sample into the injection, but all 5 microliter may not be entering to the column. So the resulting that you can get the lower area, different time, different area you will get it. Even sometimes you can get the RT is the same, but the area will be vary. So this is some of the mechanism for the evaluate factors that factor that influence on this important sample size, pump pressure, and this internal dia of the column. That's all will be influenced on the column. So just the troubleshooting for the HPLC that time, if you find the peak in this diagram, what you observe in what you are observing this diagram, then that time the above pattern occurs when the mobile phase is not suitable. So if you, whenever your data, your output chromatogram is looks like this, so there will be a problem with the mobile phase. So you should change it to the mobile phase. So baseline noise, if you get like this, so it should be you should be like a straight line. So if there is any noise is there occurs when there is a contamination in the mobile phase or improper cleaning the injection port, or in the column maybe some impurities previous analysis, that all will be is causing for the this noise, baseline noise. Similarly, drift will be takes place because of temperature and contamination of the column. You can observe this type of the uh, chromatogram. So accordingly you should rectify the sound. And peak tailing, so the tailing should not be there. You see, if you see this two peaks, two compounds, but the separation is not proper. So that time, well, you improper mixing of the mobile phase 90% of the time. So if 90% two mobile phase 90 to 10%, the resolution may not be good. So if you use that 70 to 30% A and B mobile phase, you can find the good resolution. So whenever you observe the peak tailing in this way, you can think that immediately you can, oh, this you should, there is a change, there is a polarity of the compound is different. So you should change the polarity. So when you increase the polarity, then you can get the good resolution. So peak fronting, so low temperature, overloading sample, that all. And you can sometimes some people, I also did when I'm beginning of the training, higher concentration, if you introduce it to the column, you can get a broad peak. So you should not give a overload or burden to the column by injecting the higher concentration. So first you check the what is the column capacity to maintain the temperature and the pressure, then only that much volume of the sample to be introduced and concentration. So the retention time occurs due to the problems with the mobile phase again. So sometimes the mobile phase will be vary. I mean, any contamination, RT time will be different RT time for the different times. So that is any error due to the communication system. The software is maintaining the flow rate and everything. Na? So you should be check with this software also. So peak splitting also the same thing, column lifetime diminished. And one more problem, if you find continuously like this, there is a chances of the column lifetime is exhausted. So this is our fluctuation area problem with the injection. This sometimes even in my lab also I found this one. Sometimes problem with the injection port. If there is any contaminated in the injection port, you can find the different time, different RT is constant, but area will be different. So this all should be, one has to be rectified, like a ghost peak and all that. So detector lifetime diminished. Suppose if you observe your chromatograph like this, so the lifetime of each detector has has its own lifetime. That many hours only. That if you use the UV light source for the UV detector, it has its own 1000 hours, 1000 hours time only it can be worked properly. After that, the quality efficiency will be decreased. So if you find this one, you can think that you can immediately you can diagnose that, oh, this may be a problem for the analysis. I mean, problem might be relating to the detector. So these are the application, clinical bioscience and pharmaceutical computer consumer product like a food material, environmental sample, clinical samples. You can just I want to validation of the test method. Just 2 minutes. Analysis of pesticides in water. The important maybe it is relating to your area also, biotechnology people. Sampling, extraction, analysis, and where it how it connected to our field. So sometimes we want to toxicology assessment, toxicity assessment. How do you assess that toxicity assessment in the human or even a fish also? How do you assess that one? First, you should know that how much of the water is consuming by the person, each person, how much of concentration of pesticide in the water. That if you should quantify that. So source water contains this much of pesticide, and how much of water is consumed by the consumer, and then you can calculate how much of quantity of pesticide is exposed to the consume but human. So then based on that toxicity index can be toxicity can be predicted. And the important so that is how you are going to connect this water sample analysis with reference to pesticide is the main reason to give it present. And the the important stages in this analysis: sampling, extraction, and the analysis. Sampling collection, and you should collect the pesticides analysis sample for the pesticide analysis. You should collect in glass bottles only. It should not be in a plastic containers, because it will be leach into that. Again, one more point I would like to tell you: there is a very good research in this area, but those who are more interested in this field, I mean, who interested in higher studies and research, plastic is endocrine disruptive chemicals, like one of the major compounds. Pesticides also, plastic also will be very effective on the human system. Most, I mean, some of the microplastic is causing for the what you call obesity, and these all I think I remember that one. Obesity is major thing, and you can study how it. And most of you are the biological area of expertise people. You can study the how it interacting the this plastic material with the biomolecule. Then go for the, I think you most of you know that, and go for the experimental wet lab work. You can, plastic is a major problem, contamination in the water, and also even every day most of the chemicals, even plastic bags they are using for the storage of food, storage of the some of you can take the project this one. What is the, how much quantity of the plastic, I mean microplastic contaminate in the medicine, pharma drug stored in the plastic container. So you can check that. That is a good area. Very few people can be done. You can collect it, market, and you follow this type of method. You can adopt it, or you develop your own method for the analysis of that plastic leach into that food or the pharma drugs. Right? So now connect into this one, that you can generate many concepts for the projects. Sampling, extraction, analysis. So sample collection is why what made me to tell you about the plastic is that now. So the pesticide should be collect pesticide analysis purpose. You collect the sample uh, in a plastic, in a glass bottles only. Otherwise, the other interference will come. And before the extraction, you should use the sample filtration to ensure that there should not be any the dust particles in that sample. So before going to the extraction of using the SP, this is very important method. Most of you know that. Actually, I mean, I'm more, I mean, excited to show you the instrument itself. I already run the sample test sample also, and I have SP setup also there. But anyway, the technical issues, I'm presenting from the office itself. If I would have been in the presentation from the lab, I would have shown you the demo of that all instrument. If anybody interested, I told you any time our sir is there, Manjunath sir. Anytime he has my number. Anytime you can contact me. Um, to visit our lab in the analysis of the HPLC. And here, this is the biodegradable studies, IOTO degradation rate. You can take one of the compounds, how at what rate photodegradation of the pharma drug or pesticide. You can simple, you can your lab you can do it even without HPLC. Also you can study the degradation rate. And since you are a biological people, you have the cultures bacteria. You can use a different bacteria or a combination of bacteria. Okay, how much degradation takes place, that's degradation kinetics can be done. And if you have the HPLC, you can extract those degraded products from that sample and use by following SPE and use the HPLC for the quantification. So these are the, before that, just 1 minute, before the validation of the test method, you should establish the, you have to validate your method. So how much you have to, how much can minimum quantity of pesticide can be analyzed, what is the maximum concentration can be analyzed based on the linearity. I told you standard calibration curve. You should establish before the starting the analysis of the compounds in unknown sample. So what is the accuracy? What is the precision? Accuracy means uh, accuracy means you should, when you compare your test results with the true value, it should be the same. It should be the same. So then your method accuracy is more. Even a precision, when you same sample you inject the 10 times, so the variation should not be much between the among the test results. So that time you can say the higher precision. So this is the very important before test the uh, analysis the compounds in unknown sample. Your method should be validated for the pesticide analysis or any compound, even protein analysis also. Even if you use the Bradford, any different method or a protein analyze in HPLC, you should validate that method. Not only pesticide method, it's a universal protocol can follow. So this is the separation of SP. This I have in my lab. So here the SP column C18 metal packed, and this is a SP cascade, and this is connected to the vacuum pump and fill the 1000 maybe 1 liter of water sample flow through this column and connected to the vacuum pump. All the 1 liter will be eluted here, and you can discard it. So that compounds will be, it's a chromatography principle. Compound will be adsorb on this adsorbing material. Then you can elute with the methanol or any high polar solvent. That adsorbed compound will be eluted in a separate tube vial. So that you can concentrate and analyze on a HPLC. So this is the example for the SP method. And now you can ask that what is the advantage of the SP method, solid phase extraction method, or the liquid extraction. You know that we used to use the separating funnels. That is, the solvent consumption will be more. So this is SP method is very less solvent consumption. So before using the SP columns, you should condition the column with the polar solvent, then sample addition and rinsing if there is any impurity. So here when you elute the compounds sample, and compounds will be adsorbed on the column. And when you elute with the high polar solvent, only compounds only coming or eluting out. So that is a pure compound. And we can't say, sometimes the mixture of the compounds, there is a chances of the go for the again another column chromatography before using HPLC. Mostly once you use the extraction method by using SP, then directly go for the HPLC analysis. So this is another prior to analysis, you have to fix the columns to HPLC and all. And one more point I want to tell you, here I want to connect it to the metabolite products. How what studies can be done, or what is the concept can be done based on that. So sometimes you may get doubt, sir, we don't, very expensive, we don't have the metabolites of the pesticide, but some are the metabolite structures are available. Even human metabolomic database, you can go through that. All many, even food metabolites, food contaminants. What are the compounds in reported one, and what are the metabolites that are all available, but very expensive to buy the metabolites. So that time what I will do, you can check you can use it just for the initial study. I'm telling you, pilot study, you can use the TLC, you will be knowing. And if you use the pesticide single compound or any compound, you should identify the single spot. But if it is degraded with biologically or the photolite, then you can identify the 2 or 3 parts. So now you scratch this, most of you know this one, scratch this part and use for the toxicity study, or the toxicity study, and the any absorption studies. That is one way of isolating the metabolites immediately, or identifying the and you can use that if you separate this part by scratch it and dissolve it in the vial in the solvent, and that can be used as a standard for metabolite or the degrade. You know that don't be confused, you know very well what is the difference between metabolite and degraded product. That's one. And these are the reference I told you. I have used some of the material took from the internet and also following some research. So I hope if you permit, I can take 2 minutes time, Madam Ji.
Yes,
Can I take another 10 minutes, Madam? It is excited to present some data, maybe useful for them.
Yes,
Can
sir, you can.
Thank you, Madam Ji. Yeah, student, I mean, sir, maybe some of your faculty, please go through this concept, I mean, topic. This of my part of my research work, and biophysical aspect of lysozyme protein adduct with the monocroton. This was published in Analytical and Bioanalytical. This paper was cited in, it's not a great thing I'm telling you. This paper is cited in Nature Group Publishing Journal. by some of one Chinese scientists. Good group. Now, yeah, just one point I want to tell you. Maybe if he is recently any research people or anyone there, for them it is a small input. If you want to go abroad or find a good group, which is that lab is working of your projects working of your interest, you can check the publications and contact directly to those people. And if you have a considerable basic experience relating to that field, there is a chances of invitation to work in their groups. That is how you can explore the fellowships or funding. But this is for the junior side, not for the senior faculty or somebody there. Don't mistake me. So exposure to the organophosphorus compounds can lead to serious neurological disorder. That all I have told you earlier. And human biological monitoring of pesticide exposure has become essential with objective to assess exposure and health risk and is an expanding area of the research. I suggest you, I mean, not suggestion, I'm giving you information, you focus on this area. So I tell you, you can connect you easily to learn that docking area. Docking is very easy now. There are different software, Gold, and also Autodoc is also available. uh, you can learn some techniques from the some good material is available also, and you can do the interaction study, then go for the wet lab, and 90%, 99% both results will be the same. So you will get a good idea. So where this interaction takes place, which amino acid is interacted with the pesticides, that all will be give the idea before the going for the wet lab. So this already I told you, and just I would like to tell you mechanism of the interaction, which causing for the interaction between the protein and the drug, or the very simple paperwork. You can do it. You can take some of the protein which is easily or less cost, like HSA, and some of the drug or which is not published or recently released into the market, or you can do it. You have a good access, a Gold, or screen the phytochemicals interaction with the protein, or some biome, some targets will be there for cancer. You can find that target marker. You can study for the interaction. And if you are good at very good opportunity abroad, I am telling you, or even drug discovery area, you can change the functional group position of the molecule interacting with the particular protein or that marker. Then you can see that how interaction will be there. So binding energy should be more at that, so that at which conformation of that molecule, which functional group has added or the change the position, then more interaction, strong interaction is there. Then you can go for the synthesis, all that. That is how the drug discovery, that good area. I'm telling you, if there are anybody students are there, you can explore these type of things there. Yeah. So this is a mechanism of the some of the reference I have given here, and I took it from that paper. Neurotoxicant is considered as electrophile, and a neurotoxicant adduct is nucleophilic residue on a neuronal protein, and among the widespread adducts, a key amino acid residues adducted with a regulate function, specific function of the specific. It is repeated, sorry, and adducts lead to the change in the protein structure. Yeah, you want to first out of this from this slide, what we can extracted from this is that the one drug neurotoxicant is considered an electrophile, and the protein is considered as a nucleophile, and two electrophile and nucleophile is combined together and form a complex that we can call it as a adduct. And that when it happens, the protein conformational change is taking place. Once conformation change, function also will be changed, that causing for the different diseases. That is the main. So this is the general mechanism for the neurotoxicity, all the even cancer also. So this is the paper which I published. I told you I have collaboration with JNU Delhi. So this paper published, I told you. So again, yeah, yeah. What I want to tell you motivation for this one, I selected the lysosome is easy, and that considered as a biomarker to see that to evaluate that lysosome can be used as a biomarker. You can select the any difference, even cytochrome P450, ACHE also can be, acetylcholine esterol also can be selected as a protein, and you can study for. Yeah, one more point I would like to tell you is that some of you can start. I mean, some project inhibition activity, ACHE activity, inhibition activity with the interaction of the chemicals or the even food chemicals also. That is type of one of the project. You can identify if you can read the review. If the juniors are there, if you read the review papers, you can get a good idea from that. So here I wanted to tell you, lysosome is considered because, and I wanted to evaluate that this can be used as a biomarker. And even I have done some studies, HSC also, I have done some docking or results also there, but I'm not going to present here. Yeah. In this main objective of this work is to understand the mechanism of edit formation, to understand the interaction at the molecular level, and for that I have crystallized the lysosome protein with the monocrotophos. This is one more point I want to tell you. Monocrotophos is a phosphorus based compound. That most of the studies, even docking studies or even crystallography studies, very less with, particularly with pesticides and the protein. And the interaction is particularly at mostly in covalent interaction with some of the amino acids, and like tryptophan and aspartic acid. There is a covalent interaction strong, and also the interaction with phosphorus also. Phosphorus moiety is interact with the protein target molecule. And to get the complete complementary data, I have used the fluorescence device, UV spectrometers, CD, and MALDI-TOF also taken into consideration for this work to get the supporting data to understand the usefulness as a biomarker of pesticides. And the study may be used to assess the human health risk associated with the pesticide used and its exposure. So these are the experimental that I'm not going to detail more. Just I would like to go for the direct results which I found. I used the TRIPS buffer. I maintain that pH, and I want to tell you that if you want to study the crystallography work or interaction and all that, some of the reported crystal structure will be there, some conditions also will be there. You can explore that, you can utilize that data. Of course, you can give the reference in your work. So that time you can easy for, and again you have to screen the crystal screening has to be done. Though you have a conditions are reported there, but again you have to be modify, alter that crystal conditions like a pH and the concentration of the protein, concentration of the substrate, that all you have to done. The monotograph structure, and this is the fluorescence sensing. This is also very important, and the kinetic data for, to utilized for the interaction study. And I have monitored that the emission excitation wavelength will be 280 nanometer, which is for the corresponding to the tryptophan, and emission wavelength range I have monitored the 300 to 500 nanometer, and lambda maximum is at 348 nanometer. So the first the peak which corresponding to the is the lysozyme, and after the following subsequent peaks are corresponding to the compound of that monocrotophos added to the lysosome. So we observe that there is a quenching, decreasing in the intensity of the fluorescence, But here, we found that this study suggests that the intensity of the fluorescence will not be decreasing at a stretch, but as the concentration is increasing, accordingly the fluorescence is quenched. And also this we can this static quenching. There is a difference between static quenching and dynamic quenching. So very good books are there. If you are, I mean, more in that, I don't remember. I have very good books, but I've forgotten other also. The fluorescence quenching is are different types: static quenching and also the what you call static quenching and dynamic quenching. Depends upon your application. You should select the method. Dynamic quenching is that sometimes energy transfer taking place during the excitation. I mean after the excitation, but the static quenching before at the ground state only, before absorption the light energy, between the exchange of energy between the molecule substrate and the protein, then the complex formation takes place, then energy is absorbing, energy transformation is taking place. that we can call it as a static quenching. And if it's a dynamic quenching, and once a excitation state only energy transfer takes place. Individual molecule will be absorb the energy, then combine together, and uh, quenching takes place. So that type of quenching we can call it as a dynamic quenching, and is in the ground state only. After forming complex, the quenching takes place. That is a static quenching. So this study suggests that this is the static fluorescence quenching, and this is the KD this KD value also be using the 10 Walmer plot is for the to understand the interaction between the two molecules, and using this 10 Walmer formula, mathematical formula, we can calculate, we can identify the KD value, and also the how it is interacting between the two molecules, whether it is a stable or the, sometimes when we should be in a I mean, it will be what you call that confuse. I mean, we can't predict properly. Sometimes overlook. Uh, Once the two molecules will be come together, and the interaction will be very weak, and again it will be separated. But that type of thing should not be used. That should not be takes place for the drug development. So once, if you want to use the drug target and any pharma drug which you are designing, that interaction should be more strong, more strong. That is important part. So it will be come closer to the two molecule. Again, some fluorescence quenching takes place. Again, after a few minutes, second fraction of time, again it will be separated. That should not be there when the particularly drug development. So KD value, if the KD value will be the now, the interaction will be more strong. So that is the important of KD value. So this is again, I took the fluorescence UV data also. This one more point I want to tell you. Some of you may ask question also. There will be a slight lambda maximum is at 348. There will be a slight change in the shift in the wavelength. There is a change in the wavelength. There is a shift in the wavelength. That may be a reason is that there will be a slight conformational change takes place in the lysosome protein after binding with the monocrotophos pesticides. That's how we can interpret based on that. So this again, as concentration is increasing, the concentration of this is the control, and after adding the monocrotoph concentration to the lysosome concentration is constant, and we are increasing the concentration of the pesticide. So the intensity absorption will be increasing. So again, another thing you might be known that the circular dichroism. So CD data we use for the to confirm that there is any conformational change takes place after binding. Yes, there is a change in the secondary structure conformation. Again this also, yeah, these are one more thing I have done here. Actually, I have done that this trypsin digestion also, fragmentation, that data I have not included here. But here the MALDI-TOF data I included to that intact mass only. So mass of the protein will be knowing, and after adduct formation of the complex form between the protein and the pesticide, the mass obviously should be increased with the higher with the which is equal to the mass of the monocrotophore. So this is intact mass of the protein erect only be presented here. So that indicates the MALDI-TOF data is suggested that there will be a strong bond between the protein and the monocrotophore. The same molecular weight of monocrotophore is increasing in the mass of the protein adductor. That is it. Hope you understood. This is the this is the MALDI data of chromatograph. And crystallization, lysosome was taken. Yeah, this hang and drop method I have used this one, and conditions also the pH I have used the 15 millimolar of this copper, pH 75. So this data collection, yeah, that all you know that. And the crystal structure resolution will be 1.9, and the and P450 space group will be P43 space group, and resolution will be 1.9. And yeah, after that, using the Atomar and Remap we have model that build the model, and this is a modeled structure. This is a monochrotophore. This is the interaction lysosome with the monochrotophore, and this is density map, and these are the interactions. So tryptophan 108 uh, amino acid is interact with, this is the pesticide molecule monochrotophore. They has a, this is the distance between these, and it has a more interaction, covalent interaction. In addition to this one, there will be a hydrophobic interactions also present. Yeah, concluding. Yeah, conclusion of this one. So I, in concluding conclusion, so I have presented about the basic principle of the pesticide, basic principle of the HPLC and components, and also I have discussed the brief protocol for the extraction of the pesticides in the water, and what are the health effects, that also I have discussed. And finally, second part of my talk, I have discussed the different techniques that are used for the interaction study between the lysosome and the water. So a study suggested that there is a strong interaction between these two molecules. So crystal structure is to understand that there is a close interaction at molecular level, close interaction with the tryptophan with the monochrotophore. So now last about 2 minutes, entrepreneurship plans. I wanted to give more also, but I am sorry. I have some more ideas, but I could not make it last moment. I am sorry for that, my inability to provide more. Electroanalyzer, just you think about that. This is for the people who are interested more. This conference, this workshop also be relating to that. How you become an entrepreneur. So electroanalyzer is one I will tell you one example. There is a simple mechanism, electrochemistry principle. You know that it contains the two electrodes, anode and cathode, and that sorry, that electrode using the in complete the electrical circuit, energy provided from the DC source, and you fill that container in one contain like a jar. In contain that jar contains the two electrodes, and two electrodes connected to the DC source DC source, and put the distilled water or the salt sea water. If you were to use the distilled water and add some sodium chloride in that, and run the device or supply the power to the two electrodes in that jar, and you will get a hypochlorous acid. Very simple technique. So then what is the advantage of this? The hypochlorous acid is utilized by antimicrobial activity. You can check that so what is the minimum concentration that required for hypochlorous acid is required to kill the bacteria in a drinking water, E. coli. How much concentration is required? But in one point I want to tell you, according to the standard, drinking water chlorine hypochlorous acid should not more than 0.5 ppm. So if you work in the lower concentration, that can be a good work, or you can start a startup call that one. So that is one thing. And also this is I have one company approached me. I have evaluated this device. I have tested how much concentration is producing, how much concentration HOCl. I wanted to show that device in lab, but I'm sorry. At HOCl, and I have quantified how much concentration HOCl is producing for the 3 minutes run of the device, and what is the minimum concentration required for the killing the eliminating the E. coli from the in the drinking water. That also established. But one more thing, they approached me to but I have contacted some other agriculture university professor, and also I suggested them that company people asked her that what else can be done with this electroanalyzer. I told them you can fix this device in aquaculture farm, but you can run the device for a stipulated time, and fungus on the or bacteria cannot be effect on the even prawn or the fish also, because of, but it should not be high. But even though it's not a chemical, it's not too toxic also. Simple, you are not synthesizing hypochlorous acid simply from water only. So, and also another I suggested that a pesticide, you take this idea, you can implement it. Hypochlorous also can be used as a pesticide, but already reported. But we have to, whenever you want to design any compound for use as a biopesticide or the anti what you call the antimicrobial activity, you have to test that one. So you have use the flies or the even some leaf eating flies or insects also will be there. You can uh, keep all those in one container. Many methods are available. You can do it in your lab since you are biological background. You can keep it at what concentration of the HOCl that is killing. That is just you have to be work on those things. And then further step go for the registration in insect in government of India, that insecticidal department, all that. That's how you can use these type of concepts or register your biopesticide or any other compounds. For the antimicrobial activity and all that. This is one concept I would like to just think in some more. Just insight of this device. Further, you think about it. And another thing, startup relating the pesticide detection. You can think. You most of you know. I can tell you Elman method. You most of the colorimetric experiment you know very well how to determine the pass rate and all that. Subbarao, we should grateful to him. He introduced that pass rate determination and also using that urea determination. So now think more about those colorimetric experiment, spectrophoto experiment. You can make a small strip based detection sensor for the device. What you call that? Some paper based strip to detect the pesticide. For the relating to that, just I want to tell you, you know that the Elman method we can use the acetylcholine esterase ACHE and DTNB, and you can coat on that paper, and then the pesticide if you add it, but you have to work out that it is if the color change is there, it is relating to the pesticide, but you have to establish if you want to use that strip for the individual pesticide or the combination of the pesticide, that you have to establish. So you can quantify based on the color, like how you are using the pH, what you call that, pH detection color range. You know that na they will paste. That container they will display the different color corresponding to the different concentration, different pH. Like that, you can make and sell it into the market like that. So yeah, I told you that electroanalyzer relating this one, which I am talking just now, like a quantification of the pesticide. You will take the filter paper, coated on, fix on the plastic support, and there you can use ACHE and DTNB. I'm not asking. You need not call the ACHE. You can use a different protein, different targets which has a more affinity to bind with the chemical. Even some plant-based enzymes also can be have a more affinity to interact with the metal. So you can identify that one. You can make it the same coated on this solid surface, and then color change with a different concentration, different color you can establish. Then you can market it. So this is one type of just some idea. So you can get the ACHE and yeah, and also AT, acetylcholine iodide can be added, and the sample you added, different color will go. It's a simple Elman method, how you are measuring the following that protocol. Same you can use this. So similarly, there are different mechanisms are there, different colorimetric experiment, spectrometric. You can make it as a simple tester. It will be great contribution to the society or science, and for the benefit of the farmers. Or if you want to test the people in the, you can test for the, you can design this type of thing. The people in the villages, they can test easily whether contaminated pesticides or not. And one more point connecting to this one, spectroscopy principle. You are a biological background people. You can sum up the bacteria, you immobilize in the solid surface, and that has a more affinity to bind with some chemical. That chemical. Similarly, you pack those bacteria on the solid surface, packed in the column, and you supply the continuously drinking water to that column. And if the water is contaminated pesticide, the color of that column will be changing. So that time, again you can fix the camera pneumatic camera, and it can give the alarm. So this type of, like IoT, you can consider that one. IoT, when color change, that is again detection, biosensors, same type of mechanism, and connecting to the IoT data that you can learn, but one has to have a passion to learn. Oh, this is not related to our field. IoT is different, a computer, not like that. You should learn. You can explore these type of things. So that I would like to tell you. Yeah, so there are some things. There are some reference. You can check this type. I wanted to provide that reference also. Very good thing. Yeah. Yeah. With this, I took a more time. I apologize to all my, all colleagues are involved in this FTP. And my area of research, just let me 1 minute. My area of interest. One more point I want to tell you. The vitro study only I have done focused on that. Later, you also can continue that work. If you quantify, but it is a lot of the challenges are there. If you want to quantify the protein adduct in blood sample, then you can correlate that if this much concentration of protein adduct will be with the pesticide, it will lead to the cancer after a few years. You can correlate it also. And in this context, I want to tell you, if you are good in the, I'm sure that you know the bioanalytical technique, spectroscopy principle. If you are thorough in that, you can you can design the what you call that a portable device like oximeter, how we are using now, the source light in between the sample and detector, photomultiplied detector. How you can consider the same like oximeter we are using, it available in the market. You can measure, you can utilize the same concept for the detection of the metabolites in the blood sample, but there are some impurities. So you can use that technique as an invasive one, non-invasive device like that. So I am telling you here one point, telling that you can use the spectroscopy principle also. You can start, plan for the startup and even patent relating things. So hopefully, I wish for that all great things. So no one, I tell you one thing, all of you, no one is a great by these things. Even most of the Nobel laureate, they didn't expect that they will get the Nobel Prize that one. So initiation is very important. First of all, that is the thing. And yeah, my area of research is interest. Relating to this one. Anybody is overlap with this one? You please, my sir, very nice colleague, friend, Professor Manjunath sir. Through him, or you can mail me. I can, whatever the facility I have, whatever I have little knowledge, I can share to which may contribute to your project, or which will be utilized for your professional. So I want to thank all these my supporters, Handball Fellowship, and all that one. So I would like to thank my university. So any questions I'd like to take up?
Thank you, sir, for that very elaborate talk. And the participants asked for your contact details. We have shared it in the chat box for those who want to interact with sir. We've shared the email ID of sir. You can directly contact him. Sir,
thank you, Dr. Srinivas, for coming over here and sharing your knowledge with us. So we hope we will be continuing our collaboration work towards some publication and projects.
Yes.
And we are open for collaboration. And as you mentioned, you are also open for collaboration. So collaborative link will be established very soon. And I request other participants who are interested to collaborate with us. We are open for collaboration. Thank you, Doctor, once again. And we will be expecting you soon to the department, and we will also visit you.
Yeah. So probably, actually, one point again, I repeat. Actually, since it is FDP, I have planned for to give a demo of the HPLC and extraction, but I could not make it. I'm sorry, but we'll see some other time. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the staff, students, and management, we extend our heartfelt gratitude for your informative and elaborate talk. And thank you for being part of this FDP and enriching our faculties with your knowledge. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Yes.
Dear participants,